I didn't really make the connection that capital raising is sales, but that's really what it is. It's really working with people. It's a lot of similar skill sets. I would say, having raised over $40 million, I don't really ask people for money. I'm able to create it in a way that I create content and I work less as a hunter, as hunter sales guy, get out and get the sale and sales dog mentality. I don't do that. I am more of a farmer where I create resources and podcasts and books and ebooks and events. And then people, when they're ready, they come to me and they, hey, I'm interested. And it's much more like farming. Like when the fruit is ripe, you can pick it. You don't pick it before it's ripe.
I am Christina Suter, and this is the Real Estate Breakthrough Show, where we talk about the reality of real estate, the mindset you need in order to face the reality of what it is, and tips and tricks to get you moving forward in investing. I am your host, Christina Suter.
I am here with Bronson Hill, and Bronson is my personal friend. I have run meetings with Bronson. Our meeting with ITI now, which used to be called Phoebe Multifamily. We've been doing that for almost 6 years now. And I'm finally interviewing him on my show. I don't think Bronson, I haven't interviewed at least for the last 3 years on my show. I feel like it's way overdue. So welcome to the show.
Christina, I'm so excited to be here. I think I was on this show maybe a year ago or a couple of years ago. So it's been a little while, I think, but maybe it was not memorable enough. So I had to come back.
That's my fault. That's my fault. All right. I have to go back and find the actual date, but for some reason, but you are speaking at my meeting and you haven't spoken at Phoebe Pasadena.
Yes.
If ever. I don't know if you've ever actually spoken there.
I've never spoken there. Am I speaking at your meeting? I don't know that. Do I have some on the calendar or am I speaking at your meeting?
Yeah, that's part of why we're having the podcast.
Okay, great. Okay. Anything you ask me to do, Christina, I will do. You've been a friend and a mentor over the years. I will say yes. So whatever you need me to do, I'm here to do.
We need to get you on the calendar. That was part of the purpose of the podcast, is to get you speaking at my meeting. So there you go. If my assistant has not nailed that, production manager has not nailed that down with you, I will make sure she does. So there.
Okay. Sounds great. Can't wait.
All right. So give us the bottom line of your history. Just 2 minutes. Who's Bronson Hill?
Yeah, it all began with a young boy and a dream. No, I'm kidding. That's the long version. But no, I started my career actually in the nonprofit world as a youth pastor. Did that for about 5 years. Wanted to change the world, make a difference. Lived overseas for a little bit. Ended up coming to get into the medical device sales world, which people say was a big change, which it was. But it was also making a difference in people's lives. I did that for 10 years on the side. I started doing some real estate, realized I wanted to scale, and single family was not going to get me where I wanted to go. So there's a saying, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. Had a relative who I hadn't seen in years, said, Wes as well, who said, hey, why don't you do multifamily? And I said, I'd love to, but I don't have the money. He said, you can raise the money. And so I learned about syndication. I came to you and said, this was 6 years ago, and said, hey, Christina, I want to start another meetup, and you show up, I'll do all the work, and we'll make it on multifamily. You're like, that sounds great. So we had 60 people that first meeting, found my first investor there, raised $100,000. And then 4 or 5 years later, raised over $40 million, quit my great corporate job, and just loving life, and wrote a book recently, and just continue to try to create in the space.
Yeah. And you're part owner now in how many doors?
So we have about 2,000 multifamily units, and we've also done a lot of stuff, like cash flow. That's kind of the thing everybody wants now, is cash flow, which doesn't exist in a lot of real estate. So we've shifted to businesses like ATM machines and car washes and oil and gas, and even some private equity stuff that produces consistent cash flow. So we've done a lot of stuff in that space as well.
Beautiful description, because I think diversification is a huge aspect inside of a portfolio. And even as a capital raiser, it sounds like you're finding that there's value in being able to offer your investors not just one style or one brand, but something that works in multiple different cycles, which we're going to get to cycles in a little bit. Let's talk about, you had a perfectly great job doing medical sales. I don't think you were overly, you were successful in it. I think you had, a successful income in it. You were making the sales you wanted to make, and yet there you are, launching yourself off into being a capital raiser, looking to quit your job. Tell us more about why even bother to do that. Why choose real estate?
Yeah, so I had a good job. I was making $200 to $250 a year doing medical sales, working 30 hours a week or less. But I wasn't happy with it. I think for me, there's two things. One is that a lot of people in the medical field can't take time off. So to take vacations, and you know how much I love to travel, Christina, and how many trips I take. I think I traveled 6 times internationally last year.
Yeah, right.
So,
exactly.
I wasn't able to do that before. And I really wanted to be able to have flexibility over my time. So people will say, I want financial freedom, but really what they're saying is I want time freedom. And so to me, I wanted the time freedom. And so I thought, if I'm able to create passive income, investment income, I can create, more time freedom. And that's what I was able to do. My goal this year is to have 150 days, 150 days where I don't do any work, where I'm able to just have team help and do other things and travel. And I've got Mount Everest coming up. I'm not climbing Mount Everest, but Everest Base Camp in India coming up next month, and looking forward to that. So that was one reason. The other reason was, another reason was I would have to go to work to get paid. And that's a very normal thing. There's a time for money trade most people do. Even a lot of physicians, a lot of high earners, business owners think, well, if I leave my job, if I sell my business, how do I get paid? And, Warren Buffett has this quote. He says, unless you learn how to make money while you sleep, you'll work until you die. Now, ironically, I think Warren's 93 and he's still working, but he's doing it on his own
Yes,
terms. He's
it
working with
is.
people he likes and trusts. And so to me, I wanted to create for myself a way to do the things that were important, to write the book, to travel, to spend time with family, and really have the time freedom that I wanted.
Beautifully described. Beautifully described. So we all of us have a history before we become professional investors. Most of us do. A few people are like, hey, my dad did it, I do it too, or my mom did it, I do it too. What in your history either prepared you for this, whether it was skills from a previous job or your nature or family history? What prepared you for you to be able to find your spot inside of real estate?
Yeah, so in the beginning, I think you'd try a lot of different things, and I tried actually before real estate. I was doing, I was an investment advisor for a little bit, which was I call myself a recovering investment advisor. That I just saw some of the Wall Street stuff that it didn't really work for me. But I think in my past, I was in sales for 10 years, and I didn't see, and initially I didn't really make the connection that capital raising is sales, but that's really what it is. It's really working with people. It's a lot of similar skill sets. Now, I would say, having raised over $40 million, I don't really ask people for money. I'm able to create it in a way that I create content, and I work less as a hunter, as hunter sales guy, get out and get the sale and sales dog mentality. I don't do that. I am more of a farmer where I create resources and podcasts and books and ebooks and events, and then people, when they're ready, they come to me and they, hey, I'm interested. And it's much more like farming. Like when the fruit is ripe, you can pick it. You don't pick it before it's ripe. And so that's something that I think. But sales is a great skill set to have, and especially if you do sales the right way. Now, a lot of people kind of would repel it. So I don't, no, people don't like salespeople a lot, but I think there's a way to sell where you're just helping people. And a lot of times, maybe you don't always get the business. Maybe you don't always get what you want right then, but you're helping people. And the best salespeople I know are not salesy, right? There's people that are salesy, and
Yes,
no one
yes.
wants to be sold, but everyone wants to buy. So there's got to be a way that you can tailor your approach if you're in this space and you're looking to raise money or getting involved in that, where you can find an approach that works, that you're not coming across as overbearing, or you're just helping people.
Bronson, one of the things I've always admired about you and why I was willing to open a meeting with you 6 years ago was your integrity, your ethics. Like you started in this sort of ministerial perspective and you didn't stop there. We're going to talk about that another time. But you're using that same philosophy, that same being, that same person that you were there, the desire to help people, the desire to bring people forward, the desire to add quality to life. And that's still the same person that's the Bronson Hill that's running Bronson Equity that's doing sales. That's still the same human being. You haven't left your ethics, you haven't left your base, you haven't left your authenticity to be able to contribute to other people's lives instead of this way, that way.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Thank you, Christina. And it's been great working with you the last, we've had different iterations of my growth over the years, and things have changed, but you've been an incredible friend and mentor. And I can't say enough good things about you and your mentorship programs, and anybody listening. That's what got me in action, was working with you. So I will never forget. I'm super grateful. But I think, I'll just take it back, and I hope it's okay to share this. I like kind of going to the deepest level on certain things, but to me, my faith is a big part of what I do. And it really impacts why I do what I do. And there's a lot of people that live from a kind of a yachts and Mai Tai lifestyle, and it's just all about them and getting a jet and going wherever. And I think that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that, right? There's nothing wrong with having that. But I think a much more powerful way to do it is to come from a place of purpose. And what am I here to do? And when you live from that place, people can see it. They can see that you're not doing it for the money. They can see that you're doing it because you love people. And going back to faith, for me, I'm a follower of Jesus, and Jesus, not to get religious with it, but he talked in the Bible, he talked way more about money than he talked about heaven or hell combined, which people don't realize that, money is incredibly spiritual. And so what I've tried to do in my life is create a way that, money is just a tool to live out our values. Money is a way that allows us to invest in people, allows us to be a giver. There's a saying, I think it's from a book called The Go-Giver by Bob Berg. And it says, use money and serve people. They never use people and serve money. Right. And it's a subtle thing, but it's like in our lives, if we're able to use money as a tool, and, I'm very blessed. I have financially, I'm in a great, I love, what I do. It's great. But you could go through something and lose everything tomorrow. Like it doesn't, and money comes and goes. And so what I've realized is that things like faith and purpose and what I'm here to do is way more powerful. So I think anybody who's in the space of just really saying, hey, I do want to improve my life. And, of course we benefit from this as well. And it's not like, hey, I'm living independent of money makes your life better or you have more resources. But I think if there's a deeper why, it really allows you to live from a much stronger place. There's another saying I love that, without vision, people perish, right? It's a famous kind of proverb. And I think it's true. If I don't have a vision for my life, I think that's why a lot of people in life right now of any age are going through, health issues or depression or just not having a sense of purpose is no vision. There's no vision. That's nothing bigger than themselves. And so that's, I think, the number one thing that for me has really impacted my life over the years, just having that sense of purpose.
I think it's really well described. Both the sense of purpose being something that drives you forward and the meaningfulness of that, the depth of life you get to live, the joy you get to have of knowing you're on purpose, feeling that certainty, that clarity. For me, that's been cornerstone in my life. A sense of clarity that I'm on purpose has just been incredibly satisfying for me, whether it's as a mother or whether it was as a teacher or whether it's now working with my clients as a consultant and being able to help them have meaningful lives using real estate to get to that meaningful life. But also, I think the other side that you talked about that I think is important is staying authentic with it. And it's going to jump topics a little bit, people's relationships with money. If people have one understanding of what the Bible says about money, I think they haven't read it enough. Like literally just, it's harder to get in. A rich man can't get into heaven is harder than passing through the eye of the needle, right? And there's this whole conversation about what does eye of the needle actually mean and what were they really talking about in the Bible and blah, blah, blah. And,
Sure.
yeah, we can have all those conversations, but if you're looking at one quote, you're missing a lot of other conversations in the Bible about being a good steward of money, being willing to interact with money, to not bury it, not hide it, not run from it, not relinquish your responsibility to it, but be engaged in an active and intimate conversation of using money as a tool in this life to help yourself and other people move forward to fulfill God's purpose.
I agree. Yeah, it's so it's so true. I think in that verse that you're talking, you may mention that you can't serve both God and or no, it's the love of money. Yeah, well, people will say the love of money is the root of all evil, but it's not what it says. It says the love of money is the root of many different kinds or a lot of different types of evil. And so it's the idea of like there's a difference between using money and loving money, right? So money offers security, right? Cash in the bank offers I don't have to have a greater purpose or trust God or whatever. And so to me, I just find it's very interesting. But I think when you come from a different place, like here, I'm raising all this money. I think last year we raised $10.5 million. The year before that was 15 million. And, but I don't, it doesn't really matter. Like whether we raise more or less, we want to raise more because it creates more impact, but it's not about the money. It's about impacting people's lives and getting where they want to go. And it is subtle. It can creep in, greed can creep into anybody's heart, and I think and I, myself included. So I think it's just something to continue to be aware of. But when people do things the right way, and I've found that not everybody is necessarily geared for handling a large amount of wealth, and that's okay. But I think it's the idea of stewardship, that we're here to be stewards, and that's something whether you're a person of faith or not. I just think stewarding the environment, stewarding your finances, stewarding your family. These are all like we're like managers of these things that we're given. And I think it's a beautiful thing. It's also challenging. And we're never going to do it perfect. I just had a conversation with my dad the other day about being a parent, and it was like, like, I'm not going to do it perfect. I've got a daughter, and like, I know she's probably gonna have things she gets older. Is, Dad, I didn't like this, or you did that. I say, yeah, that's true. And that's kind of the way it is with life. Is that we're just trying to do the best we can, and if we can continue to get a little bit better every week, every day, every year, it's powerful. It's really powerful.
Well, I've told you and revealed to you, because you're my friend, that, this year for me is about continuing to deepen my intimacy with money. Really, truly understanding that my relationship with money is a relationship, and
Yeah.
that denying money, turning away from it, even in small ways, can deteriorate that relationship you have with this positive tool in your life. So I really like another year of just being willing to be intimate, to be a good steward, to be in relationship. I'm in relationship with my daughter all the time. Why am I not in relationship with money in the same level of care, tenderness, willingness to be responsible for, engaged with? Why would ignoring money, which is my family's history, bring me any value? It doesn't bring value to me, and it doesn't bring value to money, and it doesn't make me a better human being.
Yeah.
Right? The false belief that makes you a better human being. So to continue to route that out inside of myself on a deeper and deeper level, like it's just layer after layer after layer after
Mhm.
layers is.
Well, yeah, I think it's really true too. I had a conversation with someone that is a coach who's in the coaching space. We did a session together, and this person is an amazing coach, just like unbelievable. And I can share, they used to be a forum leader with Landmark. They've done all kinds of things. And at the end, they talked about what I wanted to create in my life. They brought up some really good things. I was like, that's great. And I was kind of shocked. I said, okay, well, this is high ticket. This is how much, whatever. And do you know how much the cost was for 1 year to work with this person once a week?
No.
100K.
Wow.
100K. And the most amazing thing about that is
It's
like,
even hard for me. I'm all like,
yeah,
20,000, 40,000,
yeah.
100K.
I mean, how much is that a minute? If that's like, a 50-minute call, was there 55-minute call once? Is that $200 a minute, or it's whatever it is, a lot of money. I don't, maybe I'm math is wrong, but the idea is like, what I think is cool about that. I didn't sign up, and he said, oh, because you're my friend, be 75. I'm like, oh, that's great. But I don't have,
It's
money to
just
do that. But the
75,
idea of
right?
like being unashamed to ask for that, right? And knowing your value and knowing your worth. And at the end of the day, time is the most valuable thing. So as much as like I said no to the offer, and he kind of said, well, I have this other thing, whatever. And I said, oh, that's interesting. But to be willing. And I think for a lot of us, it kind of comes down to what we think about ourselves and money, our relationship with money. Am I worth asking for people to, for me to coach people at $30,000 a year, 50,000, whatever it is, that can create this in their life, or even just invest and get these certain returns, or, am I worthy of that? And it's just interesting because, yeah, our beliefs on what money is and how it works and how we see our own worth with it. It is a very interesting role. So I'm curious that you're doing more work in that space too.
Yeah, I remember when I used to be uncomfortable charging $150 an hour, when I felt like that was unfair, like that was too much. I shouldn't be asking that much. And it wasn't even what am I giving? I wasn't even questioning that I wasn't giving the value. It was just literally just the number was uncomfortable. Just the
Yeah.
number. Oh my God. Right? And I remember those moments of like, well, if you keep doing that, who are you serving? Who are you serving? Right?
Yeah.
I'm not serving, and it's not who am I serving, like, oh gee, who's gonna pay $150 an hour? It was, if I can't keep serving people, if I can't build a successful business model, I can't serve people. So
Yeah.
I'm not serving at that point. Right? I have to
Yeah.
charge more in order to serve, in order to be able to maintain the business model, in order to be successful. So it's just like that. And obviously charge more than $150 an hour now, but I don't charge $100,000 a year.
Yeah.
I do charge about $20,000 a year, but I don't charge $100,000 a year.
Yeah.
So, depends upon which program you choose and blah blah blah. All right.
I did check too. It's $20 a minute if you're charging, and it's weekly and whatever. It was not $200 a minute. So it was
$200 a minute. Well, you were close. You were 10 off, but still, it's $20 a minute.
Yeah, that'd be $1 million. You can make $1 million a year if you charge $200 a minute, though.
If you charge $200 a minute. Yeah, I know somebody who was complaining because the person they were talking to charged $6 a minute.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's like, all right. So I was going to ask, what's the secret sauce of your company? But honestly, Bronson, I think it's pretty clear. I've tried to highlight what I feel like the secret sauce of your company is, from my perspective. But what is it from your perspective?
That's a good question. I think I don't, I think everybody's always looking for a shortcut or a either one of two things. Either it's who this person is, and I think there's some that's true to that. A person's gifts kind of make room for them. There's people that are just gifted. Like if you have a body like LeBron James, and you could do like that, like I'm never going to be LeBron James, right? I don't have the ability to do certain things that he does. So on one hand, there's kind of a natural talent, but then even guys like LeBron James have worked their tail off to be at the top of their game, or some of that work ethic, Kobe Bryant, some of these people. So I think it's I don't know if there's really a secret sauce. I wish there was a shortcut that I knew. Is like, hey, you just do this and then you just get there. But I think it's just I think the biggest thing that I've done is continue to take risks, to try new things, to branch out, to play a big game, continue to fail. And I say that, unashamedly, continue to fail at things and just learn. And a lot of people, myself included, we have a hard time with, and this is Robert Kiyosaki talks about this in his book, not Rich Dad Poor Dad, but a book called Before You Quit Your Job. And it talks about the employee mindset, which is don't make a mistake. If you make too many mistakes, what? You'll get fired, right? But he says as an entrepreneur, you have to make a lot of mistakes and then you quickly learn. And if you're not willing to make mistakes, I mean, again, it's very hard for people that are, have been great students, have been, did well in their SATs and were A students and all that, because they've really looked at almost a perfectionist. I've had to do this a certain way. When business, you've got to be willing to continually look at new options and try different things. And we're doing it all the time. Every few months, we're always doing some new initiative to try. And because of that, we get better and better. And I think that's the thing. I watch people that have done really well over the years is they're willing to try. They're willing to do new things. And there's this quote by Michael Jordan. He's like, I've missed 50,000 shots. I've taken the game-winning shot 59 times and missed, and all these things that like he's done wrong. And he's like, and that's why I'm successful, right? The fact that he keeps taking shots. And so I think it's a great way to think about, at least for myself or anybody who's in business or wants to be successful in life, is just keep taking shots, keep going out there and doing it. And it works in business, it works in personal, it works in different areas of life, right?
I love that, because I would have said your secret sauce was your authenticity, and yet you're right. You are a risk taker. You're a risk taker both physically. Right? You're going to go to base camp Everest this year. You like doing Spartan races. You constantly we tease you about your cold plunges like in the morning. Did you do your cold plunge this morning? But you're constantly driving yourself forward, and in that way, it's admirable because you're not leaving your authenticity to do it. And that to me is a very hard walk, because a lot of people use their ego to drive themselves forward. It's because I want to be famous. It's because I want to be super wealthy. It's because I want to be rich, which is effectively saying it's because I want to be better than other people so that I don't have to feel ashamed, worried, or weak.
Yeah.
Right? It's just one big triangle, right?
Yeah.
It's just one big triangle. I want to be super famous so that I don't feel super weak.
Yeah.
Like, well, that's all ego.
Well, it's the achiever's dilemma, right? That we want to and this is, if you studied personalities tests, there's a test called the Enneagram, which talks about there's like 9 numbers, and mine is a 3, which a 3 is the achiever. So I can get a lot of big things done, but the downside of the achiever, and
I'm an 11, so that's good. Go
you're
ahead.
an 11. I don't think there is an 11. There's 1 through 9. Maybe it's another test you're talking about.
11 is a master number when you end up with an 11 before you downgrade it to a 2.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Okay. I haven't heard of that.
It's okay. Don't worry about it.
But there's a cardinal sin, or there's like a downside, a dark side to every strength, right? So, and it talks about this. So the cardinal sin of, the positives, you can get all kinds of stuff done, the to-do list, all this for a 3. But the downside is actually deceit, that you can deceive yourself and deceive others. And so I saw that in myself when I was in sales, right? I just knew what it take to achieve the goal and do the thing, and talk about the ego, like get it done, it's whatever. So I had that. But then when something happened in my personal life, I got divorced about 7 years ago, and it made me really look and say, okay, am I living from an authentic place? And, a lot of areas maybe I was, but other areas I was not. And so I had to say, and so that's a continual reflection, come back to like, okay, and we know each other really well, Christina. So like, you've seen that, like I'll go and I'll call you and hey, what do I do in this situation? What do you think? And I'm dealing with this thing, and, and this, a partner issue or whatever. And so, but that's really helpful. I think that going back and forth between, and to me, it's less now about proving my worthiness or proving my worth as a person. And it's more about stewardship. It comes back to that idea of like, I'm here. I've got time is super valuable. I don't want to be 80 years old and say, man, I wish I had tried. I wish I had done this. And it's the idea, if you go to it like a graveyard, there's a quote, I think it's Mark Twain, that many people die with their songs still in them. Right. I don't want to, and it's funny, ironically, I'm a songwriter. So like, I don't want to die with my songs still in me. And I don't want that for anybody listening, but it's so easy to get kind of trapped into what's comfortable, what's safe, or I'm going to be this person and let it come from a place of ego versus, well, what am I here to do? And then you live from that place, and it does allow you to be authentic. I think it's the only way. It's the only way that really allows you to be authentic. There's no other way that I know of. Is you keep kind of coming back and reflecting, and not that I don't have an ego, but it's just it helps keep your ego in check.
I 100% with you. 100% with you. How many times a day do I try to surrender my ego? Both the doubt and the ambition. Right? How many times a day does my anxiety want to stir up? And I want to figure out the answer now. I want to work that through. And I'm like, whoa. Slow down. All the solutions are out there and they're already happening. Just keep observing, keep showing up, keep being yourself, and keep listening and being open. But the only way you can listen and be open is if you're surrendering the ego. Is if you're actually actively engaged in the process of listening to what the world has to tell you, because it will show you the path. And I don't even mean like, some people are like, oh, it's God and you're following God's path. It's like, no. I'm just talking about like, dude, the answer's there. You don't need to freak out about it. Like, really? Like, you've got like 5 phone calls, 5 friends you can talk to. There are lots of ways to find the answer that doesn't require you to be in panic, shame, fear, or overwhelm.
Yeah. Well, that's one thing I've really appreciated about you, Christina, is you live from an authentic place. And you're also, I see you constantly evaluating, reevaluating. And when you give to people, you give from your heart, you give your time, you give your energy, you really help people, and it makes you come alive. And so I think that's a cool thing too, to see in you, is that even with the show, the Real Estate Breakthrough Show, and we talk about it. We talk about this in our meetup that we do in Glendale, every month, that we have a transformation meeting that we use real estate and other investing to get there. And so it's amazing how but it being a part of transformation, I see that something that you love and I love as well, is just being a part of that and with people is absolutely phenomenal. And it changes when we see ourselves differently and we actually start to believe. It's almost like in the Matrix where Neo, like once he realizes, like at the first movie, he's been shot, and then he starts to believe that he is the one, whatever. And then he just then he can do anything. Like he can defend the bullets and the punches, and like the agents can't do anything to touch him. And it's like that moment is the transformational moment in people's lives that we get so excited about. And so anyway, I just want to acknowledge.
I have a similar story about the same movie, and I'm going to do that, and then we're going to change the topic a little bit. So for me, what I love about that movie in particular is he keeps going, I'm not the one, I'm not the one, I'm not the one, I'm not the one. And there's that moment where Trinity says, well, what makes you think we can get Morpheus? He says, I don't know if I'm the one or not, but I know I can do this. Mm-hmm. We can go get Morpheus. And so he follows what he knows he can do. Oh, by the way, that's when he discovers that he is the one.
Yeah.
So I love it. It wasn't, I'm going to be the one. I'm going to make myself the one. I'm going to show up as the one. I'm going to force this to happen. He didn't do that. He kept going, no, it's not me. No, it's not me. No, it's not me, until he found what he could do. And then it showed up. Then his purpose showed up. So for me, I love that ego conversation with him. So, okay. So that's my little story about the same thing, right? About the Matrix and the same thing. All right. So, but you are creating more transformation inside of your company. You are opening up a new arm in your company having to do with actually mentoring and teaching. Let's hear a lot more about where you're going with that.
Yeah, as you were talking, I was just getting chills. I was getting chills and goosebumps about the idea of transforming. That we can become someone different. And I want to touch on this, then I'll go into the business. But I remember being a kid and being shy and being really having social anxiety around in middle school and being really awkward and just doing the things now that I dreamed of. And seeing that everything's possible. But so I think for this, where this comes from is that same place is. Really wanting to help people transform. And I've realized, for me to get to, okay, we've raised $40 million. That's a lot of money. I never thought that would happen, and we're still going. We're helping more people. I had my first investor that wired over $1 million in a single wire. That was pretty amazing. That was a good,
I remember the day, because you were talking about, I need to keep my phone next to me because I'm working on this. I'm like, hey, good job.
Yeah. And but what I realized too is that, when you, they say if you really want to learn something, you teach it. And also, again, it's helping people believe in themselves, helping people to see what's possible. And I think there's some really unique tools that we've used to really to scale and to grow. And a lot of people say, yeah, I'm going to raise money, I'm going to do this, and then they never really get going, or they it just doesn't happen. And so there are tools to get there, and there's accountability, and there's coaching, and there's things that help people get there. And I had some great mentors, you being one of them, right? And so creating a space where that can take place, and there's knowledge, but it's really, I think it comes from a commitment. And I've realized, when people pay money, when I pay money to do something, I'm going to commit to it, and I'm going to get out of it what I put into it. And so when I can, if I ask people to say, hey, I'm asking you to commit with a high ticket coaching program, mentoring program, then I'm going to commit 100% to that and helping them get where they want to go. And so I just think it's a way that we can, that I can help people as well. Our team can help people to get to their dreams. And not everybody has, there are people, a lot of people, the doctor, I mean, I have over 2,000 calls now with high net worth investors, average net worth 2 million or higher. And a lot of these people are, doctor worth 5 million, or person with a business, whatever, and they have money, and that's great. But a lot of us don't, we don't have the money or the time, but we can create the time and the space to develop ourselves to become that person.
Wow. It's powerful that you've had so many phone calls. I mean, just the number of phone calls, the number of lives that you've touched,
Yeah.
the number of people you've engaged with. And it's not so much like you're changing every life you touch, but just being that connected to humanity in the process of raising the money.
Yeah.
To me, I'm like, wow, I wish I might have had lots and lots of phone calls with students and people who wanted to potentially be clients, and people at the Phoebe meetings and at the ITI meetings. And I probably maybe I have talked to 2,000 people, maybe, I don't know, but you inspire me, Bronson. You really do. You inspire me. All right. So really quickly, tell me about, so this upcoming program, tell me about how you're going to roll it out. And just like you've got it set for the year. I mean, just give me more details. I know you're humble, and I know you don't want to tell me too many details, but give me just a hair of a little bit of more details so that people can understand what it's about.
So there's a great book, and I just got somebody recommended, a couple people recommended this book, and I haven't read it, but it's called Launch by Jeff Walker. It kind of talks about the internet launch strategy. There's pre-launch, there's launch. We launched a book recently, so I've got my book behind me here, Fire Yourself, that I launched. That's become an Amazon bestseller, which has been great. But what we're planning to do to launch is to just create some resources around this. I've got a guide that's kind of a Capital Raiser 2024 guide. That's like, it's about 40 pages, but it's just a lot of my secret sauce of what's allowed me to do it, trying to give away as much value as I can, create it as a free resource. And then from there, we're going to have a masterclass that's like, hey, I'm going to talk through how people can get to the next level. Like, what's the thing they can do to start today? And then from there, we're going to invite people to say, if you want to take this to the next level, here's a way to do this, and create a mentoring program to be able to do that. And I think that it will be a lot of fun, and we'll see. Again, this is something, it's a little bit of an experiment. I feel like I have something to share, and I think that's a topic a lot of people want to know about, especially these days. But you never know when you launch something; you never know how it's going to go, and you could put your heart and soul into something. And I've launched plenty of things that, but I do feel like with this, with this concept, it's very exciting, and I think it will. And regardless, I do love being able to coach. I love being able to help people get
Some
where they
ways it's
want
a
to go.
little overdue. Honestly, you've been at this long enough that I think you have enough experience and enough depth in your understanding, and enough, like I said, authenticity, intimacy, integrity, all the things that you've worked on over this last 7 years while you've been doing the capital raising and really fine tuning who you are as a human being. It's like, yeah, giving it back, teaching it back out again. I mean, in a way, it's overdue. And that's, not surprised. There are a lot of people out there who would love to be able to understand how to use the joy of self and not the ego of self to be able to, and then be raising money so that you have a job inside of that environment, and not have it be like, hey, you need to shove it down somebody's throat. Like, no. There's a way to do this that is completely integrous, completely centered in your humanitarianism, centered in your humanness, and really driving it forward. So I think it's overdue.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. Thanks so much.
All right, so let's get back to the question. So tell me about a deal that went right, and how did you help set it up for success?
My favorite deal that we've done to this point, this is the most consistent cash flowing deal, has been our ATM machine fund. We've raised over $16 million for that. We paid last year, we just got the number back, $1.875 million in distributions to investors, which is amazing. Like, that's awesome. Um, and so, yeah, that's been amazing. But I think one thing I did is I invested passively first. Honestly, I was a little skeptical because I just like, well, I don't know anything about the space and who uses ATMs anyway. And it's funny how ATM usage is actually growing, and yet the people who invest don't use ATMs. So it's kind of a common thing a lot of people feel. But that one's gone very well. I think what went well was investing passively first, kind of seeing how it goes. Develop a relationship, doing a lot of diligence before, during, and even continually. I go back each year and just do more diligence, and I really like the partners on that deal. So that's been fun. We usually open that about 4 times a year. So that one's gone well. I think from diligence side, performance side, it's just been super consistent with cash flow. And yeah, I don't know if it's been great. So I don't know if
No, I love it. Well, and there's a lot of work you put into making sure that deal was real. I know because
yeah,
I've invested with you into the ATM fund, so I can
yeah,
personally verify that it exists and it's working and I'm getting my checks. But I know you did a lot of due diligence on setting that up for success.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
like it wasn't just, hey, they work really well. It's I made sure they work really well. And I went and saw the machines and I went and
Hmm.
saw the business and I had interviews and meetings with them. So you
Yeah.
were very personal and laid your time and your energy on the line before you went, hey, I can support this. And you invested yourself and say, hey, I
Yeah.
can support this.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's always a little tough when you bring, as somebody who raises capital, like you want to bring people to good deals, to good deals that are good partners, and of course they're legit, and they have. I mean, there's just so many things out there that are not good, and not every deal's gone amazing for us. We've had our challenges with deals, but this one was, yeah, I mean, doing a lot of diligence, going to look at random ATMs in Pennsylvania, and making sure things were there, looking at their online portal, and just seeing how they internally operate, and being the fourth largest in the country, and even seeing some of the regulatory around it. I mean, this business really operates as like they're basically like mini banks. So if they were to fail, the ATMs would still stay in operation. There's actually mechanisms in place to keep those actually operating. And so just learning about the space, learning about the people, the background checks, all that stuff. And it gives you a level of comfort as you do more of that. And I think for investors, it's and that's hopefully become part of our brand. Is just that we really try to vet things and people well, and spend a good amount of time with that.
All right. Beautiful. So we've got 3 minutes left. So in 2 minutes, tell me about a deal that went wrong and how you went to fix it.
So yeah, I think the biggest thing has been on the other side of that, before, earlier on, was just getting involved maybe with partners that just were not a good fit. I think from a character, I would say not necessarily even character, just from um, a value alignment standpoint. I used to think everybody wanted to communicate well with investors and have a certain type of return, whatever, and not everybody does. Not every people just want to raise money. They want to hear from investors again, and they're just going to do what they're going to do. And I'm so relational, and then generally I think it's, if people invested, we're stewards of their money, and we want to really treat that better than our own. And so and it's challenging. That's a challenge to be on the capital side, where you are raising money for things or with people and being partners. And I have a theory: you don't really know people until you have done a deal with them. But one deal I've had, I mean, we've had some deals actually. I'll just share, there's a couple of deals that we've had that have had bridge debt. And that I learned, for me, just that, with multifamily in particular, I don't want to ever do another deal with bridge debt, because if things go well, yeah, you do well. But if rates change or whatever, or you're just at a pinch to try to control the financial side of it. So we've had some struggles there, with a couple capital calls and things like that. And so I think what we've tried to do is just say, well, how can we specifically, communicate well with investors, look for outside partners, communicate and try to negotiate with a lender, or those kind of things. So those are all like things you try to do. But I think the biggest thing is just on the front end. I mean, that was a big lesson for me. It's just, okay, there's really no reason, even if you get lower projected returns, just always do longer term bridge debt for multifamily stuff.
I love it. I love it. You've gotten to the lesson. The lesson is always do long-term bridge debt. And it is, I mean, every
Yeah,
downturn has a lesson baked into
yeah,
it,
yeah.
right?
It was a big
So,
lesson.
I 2009, 10, 11 had my lessons baked into it. this downturn hasn't has many lessons for me baked into it, but every downturn, every single one has lessons baked into it for people who are investing in that round, because things shift and change. So, all right, Bronson, if people want to invest with you, they want to raise capital with you, they want to talk to you about what you have for deals that you're raising capital on, or they're really interested in your mentorship program and really being able to use themselves and transform their lives through the process of being capital raisers, so they have a job that allows them to remain in authenticity and allows them the freedom of time. How do people get a hold of you?
Yeah, so there's a number of ways. I'm on all the social medias. I also, you can shoot me an email, bronson@bronsonequity.com. You can touch that way. You also go to my website, Bronson Equity. I've got the free first couple chapters of my book for free, so you can check it out there. It's also on Amazon. And then we also have our investor club, so you can join there. So lots of different ways to connect. And again, yeah, I'd love to connect with anyone who's interested in growing their lives, and whether it's, being somebody on the capital side or somebody's looking to passively invest, would love to be involved in what you're doing.
All right. ITI Education is the club that you and I share, and Phoebe Pasadena is the other club that I originally started all those years ago and is still going. And thank you so much, Bronson, for being on the show. This is Christina Suter with Real Estate Breakthrough. You will find us on YouTube, Spotify, iHeartRadio, iTunes, and Amazon TV and Roku TV. So you'll be easy to find, and I look forward to seeing you guys next week.